So now that we are done with the mass coral bleaching events thing, let's move on to something a little bit more lighthearted, I guess, right? Cause yeah, I'm not gonna comment more than that. Yeah, anyway, so the next thing we're gonna talk about is Taylor Swift's Eras Tour concert in Singapore, right? And somehow this issue also got politicized in some way. Or to be more specific, it created some sort of rifts between us and our neighbors, and by our neighbors I mean countries like Thailand and Philippines, alright? And yeah, it's related to this. So Edwin Tong, our MCCY, Minister for Culture, Community and Youth, okay, it has come to light, obviously, right? And it's not as though the government was trying to hide this, but essentially Mr. Edwin Tong here, as you see in this article, he personally, all right, took a team of, well, his staff, from MCCY, visited Tay Tay, right, in USA, and brokered and negotiated this deal, right? And the deal being that they would offer her certain incentives or additional grants, essentially, to do her Eras Tour concert here in Singapore, right, for 3 days initially, and if depending on the demand, which obviously, for Singaporeans here, as you know, the demand was crazy, right? If depending on the demand, there will be an option to extend the deal in terms of like the number of dates that she would perform, to add like 3 additional performance days. So if I'm not wrong, this upcoming weekend, today is Friday, if I'm not wrong, she'll be performing today as well as over this upcoming weekend, if I'm not wrong. But yeah, so she'll perform in Singapore for 6 days. And yeah, so now this thing, truth be told, personally speaking, I don't think, or rather I don't see why this is such a big issue, but certainly it raised questions, because as you can see here, right, the Thai Prime Minister, okay, he said that, hey, what we did was just sort of, not very good. By we, I mean Singapore, right? Or at least that's what he implied. Obviously, he came out, or rather, a spokesperson came out and clarified that, hey, it was meant to be, a compliment to, sure. Okay, it was meant to be a compliment to Singapore, alright, and all that. And of course, Philippines themselves, right, one of their lawmakers, okay, there you go, expressed unhappiness and said that this isn't what good neighbors do. So the idea is that, in doing this, we are kind of being selfish, because obviously Singapore is the only venue, right, that Taylor Swift is performing for Southeast Asia, for the region of Southeast Asia as a whole. So we are talking about the 11 nations, right, in this region or in this part of the world. Now, how do I put this? For Singapore's reasoning is actually very straightforward, because and that boils down to this idea of Swiftonomics. And the idea is very straightforward. When Taylor Swift, okay, so I mean, obviously for Swifties, whoever they are watching this that may be Swifties, right, I don't need to explain to you how huge an impact Taylor Swift would have, okay, on fans' lives, right? But what I want to do now is to really just paint a little bit of a context, okay, and to obviously point out a few things, right? So number one, let's not forget that Taylor Swift, okay, she broke out onto the music scene, right? The country music scene, to be more specific. Like, I think almost 20 years ago. Okay, almost 20 years ago. So if I remember my dates correctly, because when she first became very popular for, I think, this song called Teardrops on My Guitar, alright, she was just a teen back then, and you know, she's a couple of years older than me, right? If I'm not wrong. And when I was a teen, that's when I also heard like, hey, who's this person? At first I thought it was a guy because of the name. Then I heard the song, that was like, oh, okay, Taylor Swift, alright. Yeah, you know, she immediately became very popular. But the thing is that in the entertainment industry, it's very easy to end up as sort of like one-hit wonders, right? Or you may be incredibly famous one moment, and then the next moment someone else comes up, and then you are sort of forgotten. Okay, so even back then, let's just, you know, paint a few comparisons there. All right, in terms of level of superstardom, okay, when Taylor Swift came out and broke onto the scene, there were a few other artists who were really becoming very, very popular back then. Alright, and I'm not saying that they are no longer popular, they still are. So people like Beyonce, right? That's when she came out with Destiny's Child, and then afterwards, the rest, as they say, is history. She became the queen, so-called. And then you had others like Katy Perry, you had Rihanna, Alicia Keys for a while, a whole bunch of other performers and artists. All right, none of them, not even Beyonce, right, today at this very moment, can compare with the level of fame and stardom that Taylor Swift has at the moment right now. All right, yes, whoever that watches this who may be fans of all those other artists, you may be angry with me, whatever, but the stats don't lie, right? So when we talk about Swiftonomics, that means because of how famous Taylor Swift is, if she holds a concert at a particular venue, it's gonna drive so much revenue to that place. Okay, it's gonna drive so much revenue to that place. Why? Because it's not just a simple case of her holding a concert there. Alright, because of all the fans that she will attract, travel will increase to that area, hotel bookings would increase, which also by extension means that all your other services will benefit from that short-term economic boost as well, because there will be more tourists, your restaurants will be fully filled up, you know, all your other retail shops who would also receive that sort of boost, and those that are very so-called savvy ones, they would try their best to strike up some sort of merchandising deal with Taylor Swift's team, okay, and then sell her official merch, right? Although that will be unlikely, because if let's say a promoter paid so much money to bring her into that particular venue to perform for a couple of nights, they're gonna want to sell the merch as well. So yeah, that drives a whole lot of potential revenue to that location. Okay, so for Singapore, the reason why we brought her in is because of this. And indeed, if I'm not wrong, there's one article that broke down like roughly how much Singapore benefited from that. Let me just revenue benefits Singapore. There was this CNA article. Let's see. No, I can't find it at the moment. But yeah, you know, obviously we also got people like Coldplay and Ed Sheeran to come here, you know, in the past couple of months, and that would really drive tourism for Singapore as a whole. Right, so for Singapore, tourism, even though it is not the industry that holds the biggest share of GDP, right? It is still incredibly important to our country. Or for a few reasons. Number one, obviously, just for the sake of the city's attractiveness as a tourist destination. Number two, it adds on to our cultural sort of heritage, right? Because we have a lot of unique things about our nation that sort of adds on to our culture. But keep in mind that all these things are still developing, because when we look at the grand scheme of things, Singapore is still a relatively young country. And obviously, since we are an open economy, right? So if marquee events like these would be incredibly beneficial for us, as an economy that's so open to the global economy, right? So yeah, from that perspective, it's very straightforward, as to like why Singapore would do our utmost best to bring in Taylor Swift, and if possible, try and secure a deal, an exclusive sort of deal. Now, here's the problem, okay? When other countries then begin to gripe about this and say that, hey, Singapore is not being a very good neighbor, so on and so forth, alright? Fact of the matter is this. Yes, in the context of our relations with our neighbors, and also considering the relationships that we have to maintain in the context of ASEAN, economic cooperation and all that, right? It might seem like a bad thing to do. It might seem like that. But business is business. Business is business, right? So even for myself, I've had a couple of business deals in the past. If it didn't work, it just didn't work, right? And no hard feelings, whatever, okay? Whether or not you would work with those people again, that's another question altogether, right? In this particular case, it was a deal between us and Taylor Swift. So, yeah, So one may argue that, why not do an exclusive deal, right? Such that she can also potentially perform in other places like let's say Bangkok or KL or Manila, or the capital cities essentially. Yeah, but there's no guarantee that, number one, any promoters would want to bring her in. I mean, like, if you're a promoter, obviously you will want to try and bring her in. Number two, the bigger question is, will her team and herself decide to want to do, concert dates in those locations? Okay, so from Singapore's standpoint, right, and PM Lee himself also explained this when he received a question on it earlier today. He said that there was no guarantee that she's going to come to Southeast Asia. She booked a couple of dates in Melbourne, if I'm not wrong. Was it Melbourne or Perth? I can't remember which city. But yeah, she was in Australia, right? And there was no guarantee that she would come to Southeast Asia. In brokering this deal, we essentially guaranteed that Taylor Swift would come and perform in this region. It's exclusive, yes. But yeah, it's still, in a way, it's still possible for fans from all the other nations to come over to Singapore to watch the concert, right? Of course, not everyone is going to be able to afford it. That's the bad thing. But the same also applies to Singapore, because not every Singaporean would be able to shell out a couple of $100 just to watch the concert like that. So yeah, I don't see what the issue is, alright? I don't see why there's a need to justify this, because it's ultimately a business deal. Number two, which is the really, really head scratching one, right? Some Singaporeans, okay, and these are the very, very vocal internet trolls who would really not dare to come out and voice all these opinions out loud, right? Because they fear retribution in one form or another, and I'm not suggesting in any way that that is what will happen to them if they come out and voice out all these things. But you know, as they say, right, keyboard warriors, you know, when you speak face to face, you can say all this shit, and you know, as the saying goes, if you don't speak, no one will treat you as a mute, right? Yeah, so some of these online netizens will come out and start questioning, oh, so you are giving all these grants to Tay Tay, right, to get her to perform in Singapore. Then like, why are you using taxpayers' money in that way? Like, oh Jesus Christ. Like, okay, number one, obviously the economic benefits, right? And for sure the benefits mostly go towards, or would go towards, the tourism industry, right? Or F&B industry, whatever businesses that support that sort of thing, you know, the events businesses, your hospitality businesses, your F&Bs, right? They will benefit from that, sure, okay. So it's not like those benefits will also trickle out to all the other industries. Okay, so like for instance, mine, right? The Taylor Swift coming here doesn't do shit for me business-wise, but so, like, I mean, there's something for everybody, right? Because the thing is that when Taylor Swift came here, there were also quite a lot of interesting stuff at work, in the sense of, you know, certain social organizations, right, working to try and secure some tickets and giving them to lower income families or at-risk youths. So there are also certain social benefits here, because you are providing all these lower income families and at-risk youths an opportunity to go and watch their idol perform live, in, you know, an opportunity that in many cases they will not get, because number one, Taylor Swift hasn't really performed in Singapore before. Actually, let me go and fact check that. Okay, sorry, scratch that. She came here in 2011. Yeah. But you know, okay, wait, hang on. Let me just, you know, great work by Mothership here. There we go. Yeah. Her first concert was in 2011. Okay, I'm not sure whether there were further concerts after that, but 2011, that was, gosh, 12 years ago, right? 12? No, 13 years ago. Assuming that that was the previous only time that Taylor Swift came to perform, right? And again, to put things in perspective, 2011 I was doing my A-levels and I'm 31 this year. Yeah, so that's how long ago it was, right? So the social benefits here would be for your lower income families and at-risk youths, because then they will get a chance to see their idol perform, right? And it's just a feel-good thing. I mean, obviously, again, you know, when it comes to all these events, there will always be all these scumbag scalpers, right, trying to take advantage of all these events, sure, but otherwise, yeah, it's a feel-good thing, you know, because people get to watch their idol perform and enjoy the concert. So, and yeah, so what's the issue? Why are you griping about that? And I'm pretty sure all these internet trolls, right, secretly they'll be the first ones to go out there to purchase those tickets, or even be one of those scalpers, right? Oh, okay, that's unfair for me to say that, but yeah, how is this wasting taxpayers' money? They managed to secure an event for Singaporeans to enjoy. Well, shit fire. If you don't like that, then the Singapore stops doing all these things, then you will also complain, hey, how come Singapore no more F1? Hey, how come, you know, all these artists don't want to come here anymore? right? And instead, what do we get? You know, I don't know. Yeah, you get nothing, you know. So why are we griping about this? It's and just to be clear, I'm it's not like I'm an avid listener to Taylor Swift songs. Okay, well, one of my friends is, but it's not like I am, you know. And I personally found it quite amusing that some of my students, they were like, Mr. Chang, can I do online because I'm going to see Tay Tay afterwards? Then I'm like, oh, okay, cool beans, enjoy the concert. But you know, like, yeah, it's a great thing for so many Singaporeans to go and enjoy, right? And then all the Swiftie fans coming together and just having a human experience. Why the hell are you griping about that? It's, oh god, it's just all these internet trolls. Sometimes I just don't get it. Just go out and touch some grass, man. Jesus Christ. But yeah, you know, why is this even news? Who the hell knows, man, honestly. But yeah, you know, okay, in terms of how you can use this particular concert as an example, I think it'll be great to use it as an example for related to questions on culture, right? So for instance, something like something like this, right? Or you know, you can substitute this with things like music, films, whatever. Okay, but in this particular context, we are looking at music, obviously, because Taylor Swift, right? Music serves no other purpose than other than entertainment discussed. Well, obviously not, right? I mean, certainly music and all these cultural products, their first and foremost job is to entertain. Sure, then that will be your supporting argument. But if you want to use Taylor Swift's Eras Tour concert as an example, this was a huge phenomenon. You know, it brought about the coinage of the term Swiftonomics. So right there, you can already see one potential point that you can generate just simply from using this particular example, and that is that it brings certain economic benefits and creates certain or rather it boosts certain economic ecosystems, right? So things related to hospitality and F&B and all those other things that I mentioned earlier. Secondly, it's all these things are, as I said earlier, cultural products, and cultural products bring people together, right? And there is just something about watching a performance live rather than just listening to the, you know, album version of it. So I mean unless that musical act is not good live, yes, such bands do exist. For a while there, it was My Chemical Romance, okay. But yeah, you know, when you go and watch all these performances, you are looking at the creative expressions of certain artists, right? Whether it's for mass consumption like Tay Tay over here, or you know, more niche stuff. So things like Snarky Puppy, really amazing jazz fusion band. All right, it brings all these people together. It creates communities, and from what I heard, the Taylor Swift fan base is a very, very wholesome and positive one, and that's great. You know, that's great. So do they serve no other purpose other than entertainment? No, you can create a counter argument saying that no, all these things, they provide common experiences for peoples from different backgrounds, okay? And that brings people together to have that sort of human experience, you damn internet trolls, right? So yeah, you know, this example is quite interesting if you look at it objectively, right? If you're a Taylor Swift fan, then certainly this example is great for you because, I mean, it's your idol, right? So yeah, that's how you would use this particular example as in your essays or even AQ, right? Because it's specific to Singapore, because she came here to perform. So yeah, and I guess that's it for this week's episode. We are running it a little short because we still have a lot of things to do here. So yeah, do follow us on our socials, right? Check out our website for more details on what we are up to, okay, and all that. And of course, if you are looking for further help in general paper, H2 history, or O levels English, and we are also starting a PSLE class soon, all right, you can contact us using our contact details by just hopping onto our website, thediscourseeducation.com.sg, and you'll find all our contact details there. Okay, and of course, if you have a question to ask on, general paper, H2 history or English, or you just like to add on to the conversation, whatever, right? Add on to the discourse, you're welcome to do so, and you can just simply visit thediscourseeducation.com.sg/discourse education podcast. So discourse-education-podcast. And that's where you can enter a question, and whatever questions that we get, we will address it in our weekly podcast episodes. So yeah, that'll be it for this week. Have a great week, and for those who attended the Eras Tour concert, hope you enjoyed it. And I guess, take care. I'll see you guys next time.